Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Ma'am, with all due respect, I think perhaps you were prepared with your statement and missed the entire discussion of the bill. When you said that we're incarcerating people that have not committed violent acts, your friend's son, I'm gonna give you a different hypothet, because that's not the person we're talking about who's subject to this penalty. If your friend's son were committing a burglary of an automobile while armed with that weapon, then that's the type of crime that would be subject to this penalty. If your friend's son were committing a armed robbery while armed with that weapon, that's the person we're talking about. The individual who has been convicted of a prior crime of violence, who is prohibited from possessing a firearm, thumbs his nose at the law and that restriction, arms himself with a weapon, and commits another crime of violence. We are not talking about your friend's son who is riding in a car and gets stopped for a traffic violation and his friend happened to have left a gun in the vehicle. That's not what we're talking about relative to this bill. I appreciate that you don't like what happened to your friend's son, and that you think it's wrong and you think he needs his day in court, etc. What I'm saying, and I'm not trying to change your mind on that, what I'm saying is this bill and that scenario has no application to this proposed legislation, is all I'm trying to say.
Well, Representative Villio, with all due respect, he's been charged with the crime of possession of a firearm by a felon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that is exactly the section of the law that this legislation addresses. Now, if you want to accept the amendment of Mr. Marino or get Representative Seabaugh to fix that, and I'll defer to the real lawyers on the panel, to Ms. Garvey, but the crime that my friend's son has been arrested and charged with is exactly the crime of possession of a firearm by a felon.
Rest assured, I am a real lawyer, and I made it clear what my intention is relative to that amendment and the bill, and I made it clear that if that language is not satisfied before it gets to the House floor, that I won't support the bill in its current posture if it's not clear that the scenario I just presented to you, which is the scenario that Rep. Marino has also presented, if that is not clear when we get to the floor. That is the intention of the author, that is the intention of the bill, that is the bill I am supporting. I'm not one who plays games or is trying to trick anyone. Okay. And that's why I made it very clear today what I am willing to do, and that's why Representative Bryant, who I know respects me and knows that when I made that commitment, he withdrew his motion because he knew I would satisfy and honor that commitment.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Representative Villio, and I appreciate your awareness that there are young people that get caught up in this system. And so I would actually, I'm going to follow up with you because maybe you can help me with the district attorney in Caddo Parish, because, you know, this is just ridiculous. They want to send this young man to jail for 5 to 10 years when he was out working on his GED, getting his life in order. And that's the outrage that I personally feel, that we're losing any sense of discretion, and I know you share that same outrage.
What I share is, I have said for 20 years, we need to invest money on the front end to keep kids from committing crime. Amen. I have said that when I was criminal justice director in Jefferson Parish, and that's what I expect the money. I keep on hearing about people being released from jail, and if you listen to me in Appropriations Monday, what I want to know is, what are we doing with that money? Once they commit crime, all bets are off with me. because I think that we are not just the incarceration capital, we are the crime capital. And so once crime is committed, it's a whole different ballgame for me. But in terms of investing money on the front end, we know the kids who are going to commit crimes. Their parents have been incarcerated, one or both. Their siblings have been incarcerated. Those are the kids that we need to wrap our services around, spend the money on the front end to keep them from committing crime. And until we start doing that, we're not going to see a reduction in crime, and we're not going to see a true reduction in incarceration.
Well, amen, Representative Villio. I could not agree more. I've spent the last 30 years as an advocate for children in disadvantaged situations in the state of Louisiana. And if we invested in mental health services, wraparound services, school counselors, if we had intervention programs that helped support families, if we addressed the issue of intergenerational poverty, the tragedy of neighborhoods in the state of Louisiana, the lack of economic opportunity for young people and their parents, we could address and prevent much of the crime that's happening in terms of juvenile delinquency. And we waste too much of our time in conversations not about the important stuff. So thank you for your commitment to solve problems, to invest in education, to invest in neighborhoods, and to invest in families.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Miss Melissa. Mr. Chico Yancey, please introduce yourself and your group for us, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Chico Yancey. I'm with VOTE, and I'm a former incarcerated person. Got out in 2003. I've been out now 19 years. And contrary to what I'm hearing here today, I want everybody to have an open mind. We always hear that somebody's going to work with people as it gets to the floor. But there's no public comment in that. And something I heard Representative Villio said that we can trust her that she will not do it if it's not done correctly. Well, I would never know that as a citizen, as a person in the community. How would I know that if that's done behind closed doors? Public safety is important to me too. I have a family, I have a grandchild. And because of what's going on today, we need to really look at not having these knee-jerk reactions. Every year we have new instruments before it become a bill, and everybody's filing bills and stuff. It's a ball of confusion sometimes. And as I listened this morning, I can guarantee you, I am not an attorney. I'm just a layperson. But if you guys that are attorneys and didn't understand what's going on today, think how it's going to be when it gets to DOC and that man or that woman goes in. It's going to be confusing. I don't know whether anybody realizes this, but on those rap sheets, master prison records, it's a PED, GTD, FTD. And if I asked any one of you today, what does that really mean? Could you really explain it? Could you really know what it is? That you have a parole eligible date. You have a good time date. You have a full term date. That is already there. This bill is not needed. To the contrary, to previously passed Justice, the JRI in 2017, this is actually a direct rollback. I can hear if it quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it is a duck. This is a contrary to everybody's ability to understand this. This is, I'm telling you, this is a rollback. And I'd ask everybody to, just take your time, keep your hats on. I like the amendment and everything, but people sentenced to a crime of violence are ineligible for such thing as, and I was in Angola for 20 years, they will not get the services that they need. So when they come back out, they're going to be in terrible shape again. I asked you not to consider this bill. Let's have another debate on the bill if it's come back tomorrow and make sure that the amendment says what it says, because we need to work hard to make sure we're getting this right. And I'll take any questions.
You have a question, Mr. Yancey, from Representative Villio.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Mr. Yancey, you've been here since I've been here. I've seen you in every criminal justice meeting, I believe, and this is our 3rd year. While we may not philosophically agree on criminal justice, I don't think anyone can suggest that I don't keep my word. And the way you can find out, if you haven't figured that out in the last 2 years, is watch my vote on this bill on the floor. And then maybe you can satisfy yourself that I kept my word. But I just wanted to address that comment from you that I took as not being able to trust me. And I don't take that lightly. Thank you.
And I don't take it lightly that you think that I distrust you. I only made a statement that we said that we're going to work with the author. The people that want to make comment, we're not allowed to be a part of that conversation. So how would I know that John Doe or Jane Doe kept their word? It was not directed at you. You've already made it clear to me what you intend to do is have true sentencing and make sure that everybody goes to prison that do a crime and never see the day of light. I understand that. You're a former prosecutor. I understand that. But we're trying to do now, work this out. And I hope you don't take it. I'm not taking it. I hope you don't take this personal. We're only debating here. We're only debating. Nothing is personal. This is just facts. You're a former prosecutor, and I'm sure you did a great job. I've heard you brag about it.
No, that's about.
So now I'm saying that, hey, let's try to make sure that we don't have a ball of confusion, and we work to make sure that we're satisfied. And again, this bill is not needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You want the mic again, Val? Okay.
Yancey, you've not heard me brag about it. You may have heard other people brag about me, but anybody who knows me knows I don't brag about that. Insofar as not wanting people to see the light of day, that's the furthest from the truth. I'm about justice and fairness and public safety. I may not agree with all of criminal justice reform, but I think people know who I am, and I think your characterization of me is off, but it's okay. It's debate, and I don't take it personally. I'm proud of my stance. I'm proud of my views, and my district supports me in my position, and that's what I'm here for, to be a voice for my district. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. I believe that you are, and believe me, I am passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about making sure that I do the right thing, that I can be an example for other former incarcerated people that have an opportunity to come out. And you and I have talked,
Brian.
standing up. I was scared when I was talking to you because I didn't know maybe you might lock me up or whatever, but I was able to get past that, and I did speak with you. Thank you.
Mr. Chico. Mr. Yancey, hold tight. Mr. Fontenot would like to speak with you.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. You know, Mr. Chico, it would be remiss if I didn't defend my colleague here. You said because that she was a prosecutor that she wants everyone not to see the light of day. That's a pretty overreaching statement, especially for Representative Villio. I don't think any prosecutor wants to lock people up. I think what we want to see is we want to see and define the people just like you. Those people who we can invest dollars in and put them back into society and be productive members. I always believed that the correction system was not about incarceration, it was about rehabilitation. But unfortunately, there are people that will never, ever, ever be rehabilitated. Never. And they deserve to be incarcerated until they see the light of day again. But in this body, since 2017, there have been hundreds of programs to help those people. Do you believe that 2017 criminal justice reform and reinvestment has been successful?
I think it's been successful.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
You think it's successful that we still continue to have the highest violent crime rate, the highest homicide rate, the largest drug overdose rates? And as we sit here today, we have more people incarcerated on pre-trial cases waiting to be put into the Department of Corrections than ever before.
And let me answer your first question. I believe that the 2017 is working. We were looking at it the other day with organizations that's doing this kind of work. There's been over 500, about 517 people that has been released, and not one of those people have gotten reconvicted. Okay? There's been, and I'm wrong. I just saw a ping on my phone. It's 2 people. But out of that list of people that's been in prison 20 years, 25, 30, 40, those are not the people that's committing the crime. Those are not the people that's committing the crime. So I believe that the reinvestment is working. But if you put another law like this is just a terrible law to be putting in, and that's just the way I think. Okay, Mr. Fondo.
And I appreciate it. And look, you sit here every time, sir.
Guys, we seem to
and
be
I
getting-
never,
Gentlemen,
ever
gentlemen.
attack you for your positions. But when you say that district attorneys want people, that's not true. You know what we want to prevent? We want to prevent people like you from sitting up here and the Sheriff's Association saying,
Representative
we're
Fondo,
confused. We don't want to be confused. We need truth in sentencing where judges can sentence someone and they can walk out of court and you know how much time they serve and we know how much time they
Representative
serve.
Fondo,
That's our issue.
we're gonna
Thank you,
shut
Mr.
this
Chairman.
down. I think we're getting
Thank
a little
you.
off. We're getting way off track right now.